The Venezuelan government and opposition sectors will resume talks this Tuesday in Barbados. President Maduro denounced misinformation campaigns on the agreements reached at the dialogue table. In the United States, Hollywood actors continue on strike for nearly 100 days. And in India, the Supreme Court refused to recognize same-sex marriage, arguing that it is not established as a constitutional right. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Venezuela. It was reported the Bolivarian government and the Venezuelan opposition sectors will resume dialogue on Tuesday in Barbados. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, highlighted a new round of signing of documents that guarantee an electoral party for the upcoming elections to be held in the country is about to start. He assured that with this new electoral power, all the electoral, legal, and technological guarantees are activated within the strict framework of the law, Constitution, and the decisions of the Venezuelan institutions to advance in a respectful dialogue. He also stated that he has always called for dialogue for the well-being and peace of the country. In that sense, President Maduro emphasized that since 2014, they have promoted dialogue for the understanding among Venezuelans despite the attack, the guarimbas, the assassination attempt, and the maneuvers made in the company of the former President of the United States, Donald Trump, where they attempted to set up a puppet and failed. On Monday, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, denounces a media manipulation regarding the agreements reached at the dialogue table between the government and the opposition. During his television program, Con Maduro Más, he confirmed the resumption of dialogues with the opposition sectors and denounced the leaking of information about the agreements reached. The president also urged not to be manipulated by press publications, since Venezuela would act accordingly to the laws established in the Constitution of the Republic. The dialogues had been paused in 2022 due to the fact that the opposition did not comply with the agreement established, referring to the release of funds that would be destined to social programs and attention to basic services affected by the sanctions. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, met with the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, Alicia Bárcena, in order to strengthen diplomatic relations and favor the mutual development. The dialogue took place after a month of exchange between the two officials during the G77 plus China summit held in Havana. The Venezuelan president also pointed out that during Monday's meeting, they reaffirmed the commitment to advancing cooperation in key areas to address global challenges. In this context, both nations joined efforts based on the reactivation of the Permanent Binational Commission between Mexico and Venezuela to promote political dialogue and bilateral cooperation in all spheres. Also on Monday in Venezuela, social movements gathered in Plaza Bolivar in Caracas to raise their voices for the freedom of Alex Saab. The mobilizations took place in the framework of the 2 years of the second kidnapping of the Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab, and were attended by social movements, the People's Power, and the Free Alex Saab movement. In October 2021, the diplomat was detained without legal process since his capture in Cape Verde and then extradited to the United States. There is no certainty as to when his definite trial will be, although in different trials carried out or postponed, the defense has presented cases where it demonstrates the legality of the process and at the same time has denounced different legal tricks to keep him under arrest. In the United States, political activist Medea Benjamin paid a visit to the Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab at the Federal Detention Center in Miami, assuring that he remains steadfast in his commitment to the Venezuelan people.
Hello, my name is Medea Benjamin with the group Code Pink. I just came back from the prison where Alex Saab is. What impressed me a lot was his courage. He has been tortured in Cabo Verde. He's far away from his family and he can't receive visits. He has health problems and he doesn't know how long he's going to be imprisoned. And with all that, he continues with his head held high. He continues with his commitment with the Venezuelan people. I say we have to do everything possible to free Alex Saab, to lift the brutal sanctions against Venezuela and improve relations between the United States and Venezuela. Thank you.
The government of Colombia and dissidents of the FARC-EP begin a new round of peace talks with the formal installation of the negotiating panel. The meeting is held in the municipality of Tibú, in the north of Santander. It is expected that during these talks, an agreement to reach a bilateral ceasefire will be discussed. In that sense, the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, hours before the beginning of the installation, recalled the importance and the historical responsibility that negotiators have to assume at the negotiating panel. The meeting will take place after another meeting was held on October 8th, in which the disagreements between the parties stopped the dialogue from advancing. In El Salvador, the Human Rights Institute of the Jose Simeon Cañas Central American University announced that access to justice in the country has been violated after 20 months of the regime of exception. According to the entity, Salvadoran authorities have committed massive human rights violations, including thousands of arbitrary detentions and violations against a proper process, as well as torture and mistreatment, and at least 18 people have died under state custody. President Bukele's government decreed a state of emergency on March 27, 2022, following a rise in homicides allegedly committed by gangs. This measure allows the suspension of some constitutional guarantees, such as the extension of the period of detention from 72 hours to 15 days, as well as the interception of telecommunications without previous authorization from a judge. In Panama, mobilizations continue in rejection of the contract between the government and a mining company. Organizers announced that the People's United for Life Alliance will concentrate on Monday in front of the General Comptroller of the Republic to reject the signed contract. Previously, social and environmental groups rejected this agreement, which was declared unconstitutional in 2017 by the Supreme Court of Justice. In this sense, the spokesperson of the Marcos Andrade Alliance, Saul Mendez and Jorge Guzman, stated that they delivered a letter to the President of the Republic, Laurentino Cortizo, in which they explained their reasons for rejecting the contract. In the United States, the Hollywood actors' strike resumed while it's nearing 100 days since the stopping of activities began. As part of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the iconic animation house Disney, the actors' union mobilized to demand better labor rights. They accused the production companies of using abusive tactics and at the same time denounced the lack of labor advances. In addition, unions are calling for fairer regulation in the entertainment industry and recently suspended negotiations with production companies after 10 days of unsuccessful talks. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The United Nations Security Council voted on Monday against the draft proposed by Russia for the resolution of the current escalation between Israel and Palestine, which calls for a ceasefire and has a humanitarian approach. Russia's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyansky, said last week that no changes had been made to the text since it was delivered to the 15-member body on Friday. A United Nations Security Council resolution needs at least 9 votes in favor and not to be vetoed by the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, or Russia. In addition to the ceasefire, the draft resolution condemns violence against civilians and acts of terrorism, as well as calls for the release of kidnapped hostages. Moscow's proposal includes guaranteeing the delivery of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, as well as setting conditions for the evacuation of civilians. Israeli bombardments leave at least 254 people killed in Palestine in the last hours, and the death toll exceeds 2,800 civilians in both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Authorities in Gaza report that Israeli fighter jets fired missiles over the Banda region, leaving more than 50 people dead, most of them women and children. Meanwhile, local media reports detailed that at least 30 people were killed when Israeli fighter jets fired missiles at homes in Khan Yunis and in the western Al Amal neighborhood. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that with these new attacks, the death toll in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank exceeded 2,800 victims and the number of wounded rose to over 12,000. In Egypt, 108 trucks carrying humanitarian aid for the inhabitants of Gaza head to Palestine through the Rafah crossing. This aid includes 1,000 tons of medical equipment, food, clothing, and blankets, as well as donations of blood and medicines. Also, hundreds of volunteers have come together to provide aid to Gaza. A blood donation center has been set up and has had an influx of donors since Friday afternoon. However, not all the aid will be transported by land. The Egyptian government prepared an airport in the city of Harish near the Rafah border to receive direct flights to bring international aid to Palestine. The government of China defends the need for an immediate ceasefire in the siege that Israel maintains against the civilian population in the Gaza Strip. In the framework of a meeting with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made a statement on the situation of the clashes between Israel and the Palestinian resistance. Wang Yi defended the need for an immediate ceasefire and called for the intervention of the United Nations Security Council. The Chinese official reiterated that his country opposes and condemns all actions that harm civilians because they violate human consciousness and the basic norms of international relations. UN Humanitarian Chief Martin Griffiths says he will be heading to the Middle East on Tuesday to try to help negotiate aid access to the Gaza Strip. Griffiths said he was hoping to hear some good news later Monday on aid access into the blockaded and besieged Palestinian enclave via the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, but Israel has refused a temporary truce to allow aid in or foreigners out of the Gaza Strip.
Going myself tomorrow to the region to try to help in the negotiations, to try to bear witness and to express solidarity with the extraordinary courage of the many thousands of aid workers who have stayed the course and who are still there helping the people in Gaza and in the West Bank. A response to that egregious act also includes humanitarian rules of war. You cannot ask people to move out of harm's way without assisting them to do it, to go to places of their choice where they want to be safe and with the humanitarian aid that they need to make that journey safely. And right now, the movement that has happened has not had those provisions.
On Tuesday, Belgium's police shot down and neutralized the main suspect of murdering 2 football fans in a terrorist attack in Brussels. Belgium's Counter-Terrorist Council raised its terrorism alert to the top level 4 due to a high terrorist menace to a football stadium. So the police cordoned off the area with 35,000 fans inside and called a match between Belgium and Sweden. The authorities shot dead the alleged murderer of 2 fans from the Swedish football team. The killer ran away after the incidents, and on Tuesday, Interior Minister Annelies Verlinden confirmed the alleged criminal's death in the Brussels Scheerbeek neighborhood. The suspect was identified as Tunisian Abdes Salem, settled illegally in Belgium, Prime Minister Alexander De Croo assured on Tuesday. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. India's Supreme Court on Tuesday refused to recognize same-sex marriage, arguing that it is not established as a constitutional right. This decision is in line with the view of the Indian government, which strongly opposed the recognition of these unions by the highest judicial body of the country. The verdict states that it is within the competence of Parliament and state legislators to enact laws relating to same-sex marriages. The 5-judge bench of India's highest court thus urged the executive and Parliament to legislate on the issue. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, arrived in Beijing for a visit within the framework of the celebration of the International Forum of the Belt and Road initiative that will take place in Beijing. Putin is scheduled to hold a meeting with his counterpart Xi Jinping and leaders from more than 140 countries and 30 international organizations that confirmed their participation in the forum this year. In total, no fewer than 4,000 delegates will attend the event. The Russian president's visit is also a show of support for the Chinese leaders' initiative to build infrastructure and expand their influence abroad. The Kremlin also said that during the talk, special attention will be paid to international and regional issues. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met respectively with visiting foreign guests, including his counterparts from Turkmenistan, Russia, Mongolia, and Hungary, Asian Secretary General, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair in Beijing on Monday. The meetings took place just one day ahead of the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday in the Chinese capital. Chinese Foreign Minister said China looks forward to expanding pragmatic cooperation in multiple fields, including infrastructure, trade, investment, and finance, and accelerating the development of major projects. China and Europe are partners rather than rivals, the Chinese Foreign Minister said. He added that China stands ready to work with the European side to promote the sustained sound and steady growth of China-Europe relations in order to inject greater stability and certainty into a world fraught with transportation and turbulence. Less than a week before Durga Puja, Bangladesh's biggest Hindu festival, artisans are feverishly crafting intricate idols, especially of the revered goddess Durga. The grand celebration begins on October 20th. The Durga Utsav, or Durga Puja celebration, commemorates the struggle of the goddess against the evil forces embodied by the demon Mahisha and usually lasts for 9 days or nights. Although the most important days are the final 5, according to the artists participating in the celebration, they must prioritize the finishing of the figures and then the other enchantments inside and outside of Dhaka. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, TeleSURenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.